Since the last episode was enough to make all the male audience cross their legs, I've decided to return back to regular viewing. As I've said in previous videos, my job is now a little bit more hectic, so videos are likely to be more sporadic. However, during my time away from the channel, I've not been fully idle. I've had the opportunity to travel to various locations, towing my reluctant partner to keep an eye on me in the somewhat carer role. Despite travelling to many places, in many cases I've either not been able to find supporting information, there have been too few stories to make a video of, or people have been reluctant for one reason or another to actually provide stories. As a result, I've decided to compile as many of them as I can into one chaotic video. So let's begin. In order for me to fully demonstrate the distances that I went, I will be using the poxy character of me across a map again. First off, my handler and I went to an open mic night in the Piccadilly in Caerphilly. Whilst chatting to locals, I spoke to an individual who told me an intriguing story. His mother used to manage a pub that was notoriously haunted, not that she knew when she took over. She reported to her son that in the middle of the night she'd hear the sound of children running up and down the corridors, pulling on the sheets of her bed and hitting the mattress. Now, he took what she was saying with a pinch of salt, as most people would, until he experienced it for himself. Back in 2018, Britain was thunder-pumped by the affectionately known Beast from the East. Anyone from Britain knows if we get the slightest hint of snow, the country goes into meltdown. Our green lands become post-apocalyptic. Cars get abandoned, people get stranded, hospitals become overrun, and during this time, this gent's mum was likely to become stranded in the haunted pub. This was not going to happen. She booked a holiday and asked her son to stay in the pub. He dutifully packed some supplies and went to the pub, where he swiftly got snowed in due to the weather. On the first night there, whilst he lay asleep, something hit him full force in the chest, hard enough to wind him. He scrambled into the corner of the room and remained awake for 3 days until the snow subsided and he could leave. After this incident, his mother confronted the brewery, who had tasked her to manage it. She immediately handed in her notice and left the pub. Since leaving, she's managed to contact previous managers, and all said that they had experienced something terrifying at the property. I travelled to the property in question and spoke to the new owners, who have refurbished the property. Now, they have requested that I didn't include the name of the property or any photos, as they are desperately trying to remarket the pub. However, I did manage to speak to some of the staff there, and they have also had strange experiences. Although I've not found anything to support it, the story is that 2 children died in a house fire at the property before it became a pub, which would go towards explaining the ghostly children running up and down the corridors. Now, the name of the pub has changed. It's changed from the time that I spoke to him in the Piccadilly, and since I spoke to him when I was near cross-eyed drunk, I followed the original name. This led me to a different pub, but with the same name. Obviously, they did not have the stories of this nature, but the barman working at this pub did direct me to another pub his father used to manage, called the Friendly Fox. This is where the rabbit hole gets deeper. He'd lived there until the age of 13, when his father moved to a different pub. He told me that when he was younger, he woke in the night to use the bathroom. Upon leaving the bedroom and entering the corridor, he was shocked to see the figure of a young girl in front of him. She was slightly translucent, but with a smile on her face. He ran back into the room and didn't use the bathroom in the middle of the night ever again, or at least until they moved. When I arrived at the Friendly Fox, the current manager said that he had heard the sound of a little girl calling his name and asking questions during quiet periods in the pub. According to him, the little girl died at the property by falling into the dumb waiter. For those of you who don't know what a dumb waiter is, it was like an elevator for food that transported food between floors. The dumb waiter is still there, but is now used as storage or electrical cupboards. I've not included this in a video before, one because there weren't many stories, but also I've not been able to find any information to support this. This is not to say that there isn't, but trying to find an unknown child of unknown age who died at an unknown time is a bit of a trial. However, if anyone finds information about this, I'd love to know. Now, taking a toddle over to Cardiff Museum. I was expecting more stories from here, but I could only find 2. In the natural history section, a child can be heard running up and down the walkway. Staff have also experienced the sight of a dark shadow in the corner of their eyes shoot off down corridors when they turn to look at it. Then over to Morgan's Arcade, where multiple stories have emerged from here. Unfortunately, the customer liaison staff member who deals with the stories and who was initially responsive has since gone dark. So to the stories I do have. A few years back there used to be a shoe shop. Reports kept coming in that when the staff closed up for the night, the shop was clean and tidy. But when they opened up in the morning, shoes that were on the display stands in the windows had been removed and placed in the centre of the room. Within the arcade itself is an underground gaming shop called Geek Retreat. In Geek Retreat, they have experienced strange voices coming from the centre of the room. Cards and figures have suddenly been thrown from hooks on the wall, and the bathroom light has been seen turning itself on and off despite no one being in there. And finally, 2 stories from Kentay's Cemetery. The first is the story of the Lady in White. A ghostly figure in a white dress, seen in the early hours of the morning, walking slowly amongst the graves. The second and final story for the episode is a creepy story with a twist. Growing up, we used to live next door to a guy who was the caretaker of the cemetery. He told us a creepy story about his predecessor who lived on site. Every night he would lock up the cemetery and then search the grounds for any stragglers, letting them out one by one. But in the early hours of the morning, the family would receive creepy phone calls to their house with nothing but light breathing on the line. What was really unnerving about this, though, was that the calls were coming from a public phone within the cemetery grounds after it had been locked. Many years later, I found out that this creepy phenomenon was solved. The caretaker's daughter had been sleepwalking, getting lost in the cemetery, and was sleep phoning the house. And if you've ever heard anyone sleep talking, it can be a very strange experience. My best mate, who shall remain anonymous, does exactly that. He has an app to record himself and the utter nonsense that comes with it. So for your audible pleasure, here is my best mate.
It's Mr. 10 and Mr. So is the last 2. I miss you so. I'm sorry, the panel split, Julie's space, and my place mates. It's best I'm a bit to be sometimes. Let's put with it.
Well, that's all from us here at Dark Entertainment. I hope that you've enjoyed the episode. And if you have, make sure to hit the subscribe button and the bell icon for all notifications. But remember to give it a big thumbs up, as that'll really help the channel. If you wish to get in contact with me, leave a comment down below. I aim to answer all comments. I'm also available on X or on Facebook. And if you've got a story that you'd like me to tell, a location that you'd like me to look into, or a suggestion for the channel, feel free to email me at dark_entertainment@outlook.com. And remember, stay dark, stay creepy, and always laugh. Ta-ta!